Mike Niziolek from the Bloomington Herald-Times joins us now. Mike, how are you, brother?
I'm good, Jim. How are you?
Doing fine. Enjoying the week as we get closer and closer to another week of college football this weekend. Indiana will be traveling to Indianapolis to Lucas Oil Stadium for a neutral site game with Louisville. The remaining game in that series, the other one had already been canceled. They finally got the second one canceled, come out for $1 million. That will allow them to schedule another, hopefully, lesser opponent, because getting the 3 wins is crucial for Indiana in that non-con portion. But I don't know how that's always going to be. I would imagine with the Big Ten changing the way it is, I would certainly schedule 3 non-con games as gingerly as possible. But we'll see what they do with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the nature of the changing conference, right? Your 9-game conference schedule against stronger competition. You don't have the divisions, but you're still playing a strong, lengthy conference schedule. So you don't necessarily, the Big Ten's kind of lessened up on its non-conference sort of rules in terms of what you can schedule, what you can't schedule. So it's not like it was, and Indiana, taking full advantage to try to make its schedule a little more manageable, especially when you're going through that 9. In the Big Ten, it's a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, but once Indiana, this is, I've been saying all season, this is a big game for Indiana. It's not the end all, but if they win this game, they're an underdog. They would come out of this a tough start to the season, 2-1, with an easy game after that. That would make them 3-1. That would put them on a trajectory of confidence, which they desperately need. So there are so many reasons why they need to win this game. One of which is making a bowl. If any thoughts of making a bowl game and getting to 6 wins will, in my mind, really kind of ride on winning it. But also it will show where Indiana is for certain.
Well, yeah, we talked about this earlier, last couple of weeks. And essentially, this is where the season started. I think you saw with the way they handled the quarterback situation, this is where Indiana's coaching staff kind of thought the season started. This was a game that you need to try to have if you have any sort of aspirations of finishing, 6-6, even 7-5. I think you see kind of the back end of the schedule. Some of these teams, Illinois, Michigan State, Rutgers. If you could beat Louisville, you could probably beat those teams, and I think this would set them up well. Like you said, you're looking at a 3-1 start. 2-2 probably doesn't end. It's not the end of the world, but I mean, you're feeling really good. 3-1 with a win over Louisville. Your first win, we've talked about over a Power 5 conference in the non-conference portion of your schedule in a long while. That I think Tom Allen would feel really good about that. Louisville, looked good obviously against Murray State, but struggled, had to come back from a 20-point deficit against Georgia Tech. So this isn't. I think there's a change. You mentioned the line is about started at 9. You said it moved to 10. That's pretty high to me. I think these teams are much closer matched, especially at a neutral field.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to this game. I think that it is going to be a good game. I've said throughout the show today with previous guests that the one thing that I don't like for Indiana is they're going into this game with their starting quarterback for the first time. Last week, it doesn't really count. They played Indiana State. He did get his feet wet, but he could have done this against, and I'd like to have seen him do it against Ohio State. I know it would have been rough. Maybe it was better to do it the way he did. I would like to have seen him get more snaps in that game. I'd like to have seen the starter get the most snaps in the Ohio State and the Indiana State game to feel better about going into this game. But it is what it is.
Yeah, and I mean Taven did get the majority of the drive. I mean 12 drives versus 7 for Brendan Sorsby, and the competition had more snaps overall. I think it was like 76 to 62, something around there. So I mean he did get more snaps. I mean they left him in. I thought it was kind of telling in that second half against Indiana State late in that third quarter. The two drives the lengthy drives that he kind of orchestrated. I think that was where he sort of won the job, and I think they felt really good about that sort of stretch of play. Yeah, you would have liked more snaps against Ohio State, but I'm not sure. They wanted to be sure, and I think that they are now. And so, this game, he gets to start fresh and doesn't have to worry about anything, doesn't have that pressure of the competition on him. I think that's the right thing. And we'll see how long it takes the Indiana. I think it's going to look a little different. I don't think they ran very much of what they want to do against Indiana State last week. So having Tim run the full offense will be interesting, like you said, to see what kind of offensive identity they want to establish, what they want to do with those option plays. They did run a little bit against Ohio State. Jeff Brom, I watched his press conference yesterday, said they're just going to have to prepare for a lot because they're not really sure what Indiana's going to come out with.
Yeah, and not only that, it's going to be interesting to see how. I think the one thing about Taven Jackson, and Indiana State didn't do a lot to make him look uncomfortable, but he never looked uncomfortable. He both of them, they looked always. The one play that Brendan Sorsby had to come in, he throws like a 15-yard strike without even question. That's like bringing a pitcher in the middle of the game and needing one pitch, and he throws it right down the middle and just drills it. And that's what he did. Taven comes back in, but the offense looked a little more, obviously a lot more free-flowing, but we got to see more of these weapons. So Omar Cooper and Josh Henderson out in space. They got the ball to Jalen Lucas outside of the tackle. And first 2 times he touches the ball, he goes for 25-yard touchdowns. Getting him the ball as a receiver as well, getting the ball to Josh Henderson as a receiver. All of those things are going to be very, very important as they go forward.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And Jalen Lucas in the receiving game as well. You saw a lot of that. Somebody I saw asking your comments about Cam Camper and EJ Williams in terms of their status going forward. It's a good question. Tom Allen not giving injury updates now because they're doing the game availability reports. So he's kind of relying on that. So we don't get as much day-to-day information. EJ Williams looked like, he was in street clothes at the end of that game. Looked like his hand. Cam Kemper, you hope it's just precautionary because they didn't really need him at that point. With the way the game was going, and he was kind of. They have said that he was on kind of a pitch count, snap count in the first couple of weeks as he comes back from that torn ACL. So you hope nothing's wrong there. But I would probably say I'd be more optimistic about Kemper's status than EJ Williams, but. Donovan McCulley has played really well in that second outside spot opposite of Cam Camper. And so EJ Williams hasn't played as much as you kind of thought. It looks like McCulley's kind of ahead of him on the depth chart. And then you got, obviously, the guys in the slot playing well. DeKeith Carter got involved in that game too. So, like you said, a lot of weapons you saw against Indiana State, and that was good to see.
Absolutely. Switching over to basketball, Indiana had a gigantic weekend in conjunction with the Indiana State game of Liam McNeely, Derek Queen, and their other teammate Curtis Gibbons in. But Derek Queen and Liam McNeely, obviously the two main targets there, 2 5-stars, 2 guys they have recruited independently heavily. And then, of course, Liam McNeely transferred into Montverde Academy for this season. And so they have been teammates. But overall, everything seems to have gone swimmingly well. But that always seems to be. What visit doesn't go well?
That's what I think I've seen one where a guy didn't get enough attention and he got mad.
I would love to one-time report on this visit. So-and-so said it sucked. The food was terrible. He had a terrible time.
No, you see the videos. I mean, Indiana does. They roll out the red carpet, obviously, and you can kind of see from social media, I think you get a kind of a look and a glimpse into kind of how those things are structured, what they how they try to treat these kids. When in basketball it's different because you have so much less to worry about. In football, you're bringing in tons of guys at a time, and it's more of a it's almost sort of like a factory process where you're rolling guys in and out. But basketball, man, I mean, you get you're the king for the day, right?
Absolutely. And it will be interesting to see when Indiana gets their first 2024 commitment. Everybody is thinking that that's going to happen, after the visit, and I don't see that. Bill Self is apparently in Florida at Montverde Academy to visit someone else. But I think is going to talk to Liam McNeely down there. But we'll see how that goes. But I don't know when to really expect a commitment for Indiana, whether any of these guys will get that over before their season starts to get that out of the way, or if they wait to see what else might come along.
Well, and yeah, I mean, you talk about, how enjoyable these visits are for these kids, trying to keep your options open and do a couple of them to kind of experience that. And especially when you're recruiting, guys that are at the top of the country. I mean, they're getting a lot offers and, seeing what's out there. And it's hard to sort of kind of, make that decisive, have one conversation be the decisive moment. What is the decisive moment? I think it's over time that once these guys see what out there, that they decide this is best for me. And so it's not easy, I think, competing at that level and recruiting in basketball these days.